Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a whole range of ideas and areas that require good leadership. I think which perhaps at the moment there is perhaps not enough emphasis. If I could just focus on these areas for a moment. First is sort of the area of innovation versus optimization. There is, quite rightly so, a huge emphasis on new innovations. There's lots of funding for new ideas. Well, not lots, I'll take that back. There's never enough funding for anything, but there is some funding for new ideas, new innovations, and really transformative practices, and I think that's absolutely essential. But there's also less recognition of optimization of those technologies when they actually arise in the departments. For example, if we look at digital imaging, like if you go and take a photograph with your camera now, it's going to be a digital image. You're not going to go looking for film. And it's the same in imaging departments. And digital imaging, quite rightly, came in at huge advantages. And thank goodness for the technology, because it means if you can get x-rayed here and get a diagnosis from Harvard within 3 minutes. And that's a marvelous innovation. The problem is that once it's in place, we don't see nearly as much emphasis on making sure it works to its best level. And this is what I would call optimization. And certainly in digital imaging, we see the new tools and they are fantastic. But if you look at, for example, the exposure factors that radiographers are using now, they're actually pretty similar to what they were using with film. And there's no justification for that because the technology and the characteristics, the sort of physical characteristics of the technology is entirely different. So I would say there should be more emphasis on optimization. That's one area. I think there needs to be, and Sean talked about this, there needs to be a bigger emphasis and a bigger leadership within universities to promote industrial collaboration, because this whole thing about intellectual property and trying to protect ourselves all the time and so on, it is difficult. There are challenges there, but perhaps universities and people within universities are not sufficiently nimble to be able to react to opportunities. And certainly the systems in universities can slow those opportunities down, I think. And quite rightly, industry get a little bit frustrated about how slowly sometimes universities respond to opportunities. Another area is the recognition that people are different. And we heard Eva talk about personalized medicine a few minutes ago. But people are different, and we don't often see that when technology is introduced. For example, there's a new technology called digital breast tomosynthesis that will transform breast cancer detection. There's no question about it, and it will become the screening tool eventually in Australia. So instead of going for your mammogram, you'll have this other tool that looks very similar to a mammogram, except it moves, and you can see through the breast much more accurately. Great data from the US, from Northern Europe, from Australia, from our own group in Australia, that this works. There's no question about it. It improves detection of cancer, it improves the recognition of normal images. But it works very well for westernized populations. What we're going to see is these technologies creeping into populations which we have no idea whether they're going to work or not. So, for example, the indigenous populations, Southeast Asia, the breast density is hugely different from westernized women. We don't know whether this technology will work, but because it's been proven elsewhere, we'll suddenly find it in these populations. And that's something I think we need to keep an eye on. The whole thing about breast screening in this country, we screen every woman, if they want to come along, every 2 years between 50 and 74, and indeed can be from 45 to 74. Why should every woman get the same level of screening? It sort of implies that every woman has exactly the same risk, and we know that's nonsense. Someone with a high level of density has 6 times more risk of breast cancer than another. So why don't we have much more tailored treatment? And again, this new technology should give us the opportunity to examine that. Other things, if you're introducing the promise of new technology, education is essential. You've got to accompany it with effective educational strategies. And nowadays, clinicians are extremely busy people. To try and ask them to come to a course and a workshop and these sorts of things is very difficult. We've got to be innovative about the sort of educational strategies we're delivering. We introduced something called BREAST, which means that a radiologist, wherever they're located, they can be in the US, they can be in Hanoi, they can log on and see how good they are. And there's nothing more that a clinician likes is a score. They want to know, are they good at finding the cancer or not? And they want to compare it with their mates. And you see this. So we have created this system based on this principle. They get their results. They know how good or how bad they are, and then we tell them why they made the mistakes. We point them to the image and say, you missed this cancer, and the reasons you missed this cancer is because of whatever. We introduced this in Australia in 2011. It has increased the performance of radiologists by 34%. Now that's greater than what you will see for most new technologies to get that sort of level of improvement. So education, unless it's accompanied, new technology is accompanied with the appropriate education, you will not fulfill the potential of these wonderful new pieces of equipment.